I don't care if it makes it to YouTube or not. Who cares? That's what I'm in it for. All right, everything you can hear me. Right. I wanted to make a video today on my favorite topic, calling people stupid. No, in all seriousness, I wanted to kind of just cover what stupidity is, so that way we don't get it twisted with measurement of how smart someone is. You know what I'm saying? Stupidity or being made stupid crosses all barriers. It doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, smart, dumb. Does not matter. Stupidity is, let's just call it an excited state. So what I wanted to do, rather than just kind of regurgitating the book at you, I was just going to go through the 5 laws, give my own real world examples, and basically use this to more or less justify why the current iteration of society that we're, I'm not trying to be a doomer, but it's the current iteration of society that we have. She gone. But you know, what is life? Hopefully we can get to ideas that explore what life is like afterwards. But right now we're kind of in the, what do I do? Survival mode. Um, and I'm very much of the opinion that hope is not a strategy. So one thing we can't be doing right now during times like this is sticking our head in the sand and hoping for the best. That is a stupid behavior. Now, without further ado, maybe I just leave it on this page. Like I said, I didn't really want to go through the book. I just kind of want to talk about the laws, give my own examples. Law number 1, always and inevitably, everyone underestimates the number of stupid individuals in circulation. Oh boy. I feel like all I really have to do is pound my arms on the table and broadly gesture about. Um, but yeah, I mean, could that not be more true? We seem to be in this environment that seems to think that we're going to continue to have fair elections, right? We're in this environment that seems to think that we've had fair elections, or that we've had, let me be real, that we've had someone that has represented our best interests for the past X, Y, or Z years. You know what I'm saying? At least back to McCarthy or Reagan. I don't fucking know anymore, because these people were, and these decisions happened outside of my lifetime. To the point where, like, all I can really do now is just talk to you about where I came into it, and where it's gonna go. So, well, let's just real world example of how we're underestimating just how many stupid people there are. It's like, um, the decisions right now being made on Capitol Hill are what Sarah C.M. Payne would define as ruinous. We are making game-ending decisions with respect to the society we had every single day. You know what I'm saying? So for those of us that think we have a functioning democracy that says we're allowed to go after the people because we have a rule of law, this is functional delusion. This is an idea that you are either selling yourself or somebody who has sold it to you at this point. Because if we had something like the rule of law, people like Pam Bondi would not be able to lie straight up to Congress or in front of all of those victims without being thrown in jail with the rest of the traitors. But the problem is that we have a society built as such. Well, let's just, for instance, talk about the FBI. This is an organization that is essentially given $11 billion a year to now cover up a child sex trafficking ring. And that's just one of the organizations that are the hand that are, working for this administration. Let's talk about the Taliban, known as ICE. I mean, again, another completely stupid environment. If we want to really talk about how underestimating how many stupid people there are in this equation, everybody within the constituency is currently going forward as if we're going to have a democratic tomorrow. This is a fundamentally stupid way of thinking. You see what I'm saying? This is ostrich level stuff, and you are either taking the position of running or fighting at this point. So I'm not going to tell you how to do that. At this point, again, if you think you're going to do this in the voting booth, Sorry, guys, times are just going to get a lot more worse for you. Number two, the probability that a certain person can be made stupid is independent of any other characteristic of that person. That person can be stupid. Yeah, absolutely. So, again, this is kind of what I'm talking about when this issue permeates all classes. This issue of stupidity doesn't care how, again, intelligent you are. Or, excuse me, intelligence does matter. It doesn't care how smart or educated you are. It doesn't care how wealthy you are. It doesn't care about your skin color. It doesn't care about where you're from, who your mama from. You know what I'm saying? This issue of stupidity is an everybody problem. How, I don't know what, again, this one should just be a genuinely gesture, broadly gesture about and go, look around you, dude. But again, we seem to, I would say, ultimately, in times where we seem desperate, such as the upcoming food crisis that the administration is clearly trying to cause, um, I would say when it comes to these relative crises, our ideas, once they're shattered, especially if we've never had to kind of meet those reality where our ego is kind of just broken because of reality itself, those ideas are going to start going somewhere. Now, we would like to think that they're going to attach onto moral um, axes, but more often than not, what ideas are going to do in times of desperation are cling on to the easiest to cling on to ideas. So, um, that is unfortunately the case, and like we said, that goes across all party lines. It doesn't matter if you're Democratic, doesn't matter if you're Republican. That's actually part of the game that helps people keep themselves compressed underneath these laws. Once you start giving your attention to this dyadic form of control, let's just use the left and the right. How often is it the case where the issues seem to shift from left to right, but ultimately what really happens is the perpetuation of an agenda? And I think people really need to stop thinking about a dichotomous relationship of how problems work and more of like where is just the attention at and what are the behaviors that trickle down. But we have trained so many people to be stupid. You know what I'm saying? We've trained so many people that like, oh, you've got to wake up tomorrow and do this arbitrary task in order to appease your master. And I'm sorry whether the people that have the ability to kind of view society for what it is versus what it isn't right now. But right now, the level of hierarchy is as such is that we are experiencing some of the most grotesque forms of designed slavery the human species has ever experienced. And the reason we don't even have the words to kind of more or less outline what we're all experiencing right now, um, well, that's a multifaceted issue, but one of them is because of just how harsh everything is getting all at once. I mean, you look at the wars we are now picking with others. You look at the tariffs, which are acts of war with some of our oldest trade partners. You look at, goodness, I mean, one could just waste our time going through it, but we are making decisions that are so hard to recover. We can't exactly go back to that trade partner that was and be like, are we good? Is everything cool? And there, you know what I'm saying? Like, what would be the real world equivalent? It would be the equivalent would be if Alex Preddy were able to come back to life and he was that trade partner now. And the people that shot him kind of go back up to him and say, are we good? Can we go back to the way things were? So you have to understand that these are game ending decisions on a many fronts that the current administration is making with what replacement policy? You know what I'm saying? Where is the wealth that is actually being generated within America? And all that we can really show for it right now is a bubbling AI infrastructure that has really only been designed, implemented, and used to control us. Anyway, what the fuck are we talking about with how stupid this situation is? Anyway, law number three: a stupid person is a person who causes losses to another person or to a group of persons while himself deriving no gain and even possibly incurring losses. Absolutely. So as well, and I think maybe the last page I'll show you once I go through the laws is basically a T graph of game theory of how people who are intelligent behave and people who are stupid and how they behave. But a stupid person, by definition, and this is why I say it has nothing to do with how educated you are, um, it is a product of their environment. It is completely a byproduct of their genetics and their environment. Okay. This is why when we start talking about safety regulations or making sure that people are physically safe, we start talking about people who want to start causing damage to themselves and others. Because this is when we start defining things philosophically, and there's a reason we do that. The reason we do that is because we have to have the edge cases. Just how bad can things get, guys? This is the whole point. Once we start stepping away from the whole point, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? The bottom cases are the stupid people. Once we define a person who is no longer acting and behaving in accordance with themselves or anyone else, this is this is ultimately the most dangerous person in the room. When we start giving them power without knowing what to do with it, case in point, Trump, case in point, Steen, case in point, any person within with respect to that political sphere hemisphere, um, they are not going to start acting in such a way that is intelligent, which is to say, making positive moves that are beneficial towards themselves or anyone else. And people are consistently underestimating that paradigm on a daily basis to the point where we now no longer have many constitutional rights, which we thought we had a couple years ago, which I would argue we functionally didn't. We've clearly, as Rep. Khanna has said, live in a two-tier justice system. Case in point, again, how much more money do I need to kind of show you guys of how much is going into the government right now, your tax dollars, to essentially cover up a child sex trafficking ring? I, and while we're on the topic of that, one of my favorite things to kind of compare the current administration to is dodo birds. Do did people ever learn about the dodo birds or how they went extinct? The dodo birds went extinct because they literally ate their own eggs and they could no longer reproduce. So when we need like an example, like a stencil to put things on and be like, okay, what can we compare this to? What is Epstein Island but a dodo bird project? What are this? And I could keep going, right? I recently just heard Roblox has this simulated recreation of Sandy Hook and and Epstein Island that kids can go onto and play on. Beyond stupid. And in this book, actually, they defined a category of people called super stupid. And I think we're getting to the point of like ultra instinct levels of stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like we are maxing those bottom cases out, guys. And every single day we seem to be coming up and constructing a new rendition of hell. Law number four: non stupid people always underestimate the damaging power of stupid individuals. Absolutely. In particular, non stupid people constantly forget that at all times and places and under any circumstances, to deal and or associate with stupid people infallibly turns out to be a costly mistake. feel like all I've done is really talked about law for this whole video, but rather than just say like, I did it. Yeah. Uh, Trump is constantly being underestimated for being a clown, right? And one of my favorite things to say is, if he is so stupid, if Trump is so stupid, how is it that he is getting everything he wants? How is it that grocery prices are going up? How is it that we are still getting into conflicts no one wants to be in? How is it the Taliban are parading through the streets? I mean, again, I could spend a lot of time on just how many bad things are going on right now because of the stupidity that's going on within us. Um, so this also kind of reintroduces prior laws that have already been stated, right? This idea that the this characteristic of stupidity permeates all classes of people. It doesn't matter how smart you are, dude. Doesn't matter how black or white your skin is, dude. It doesn't matter what you choose to call yourself, dude. It doesn't matter. You can be made stupid. And I'm sorry, sticking on law number 4. Again, we underestimated Trump, did we not? Didn't many of us say that round two could never happen? Did we not? I mean, I know you guys got the attention spans of goldfish, but how many of you actually have the ability to remember at this point? How many of you remember back to 2015 when Obama was actually making fun of him for asking for his birth certificate? You know what I'm saying? How many of you thought he couldn't beat Rubio in those primaries? So when we start talking about non-stupid people, at this point, can it not be said that you have been made stupid up until this point? Like, you guys need to start realizing the power of this stuff. Stupid person is the most dangerous type of person. A stupid person is more dangerous than a bandit. Let's cover what that is actually and go down to the graph. This is what he means when he's talking about people behaving stupidly or intelligently or like a bandit or like a I forget what the fourth measurement was. But a bandit's acting for self gain at the cost of someone else, and this person who's, I believe it was like hospitably, is acting on the benefit of someone else at the cost of themselves, so essentially a slave. I forget how they define it though. But yeah, as you can see, the allegories of just superimposing this graph with our current societal structure makes it nice and easy to digest, in my opinion. Um, but anyway, the book's right here. I'll have it in the link in the comment description of the video. I hate saying things like, like and subscribe, but apparently I have to do that these days. If you found anything useful out of this video, but yeah, whatever.